Hello friends, it's Lisa and welcome back. Today is the second episode of Thinking Outside of the Box and we're making these 3 awesome cards. So I used to have this really cute stamp set from Lawn Fawn and I ordered the coordinating die set for it 2 years ago. Well, I finally got the coordinating die set 2 or 3 weeks ago. The problem is I no longer have that stamp set. If you want more information about that, check out my craft room tour and you can hear why I no longer have that stamp set. So I was like, what am I supposed to do with these coordinating dies? Because they're very specific, which is awesome if you have the stamp set, but what do you do with coordinating dies other than cutting out your stamps? So that was my task this week. That's my thinking outside the box this week. And even if you have a stamp set with coordinating dies and you want to get more out of those dies, here are some awesome thoughts for you. So the first one I had was to create some potted plants. I felt like the bottom of the castle die looked like a pot. And if you flip some of the other dies over, so the one I'm painting right now is actually the dragon die cut, flipped over onto its back, you can't tell. It just, when I start painting the flowers on there, it looks like a bushel of flowers. So that's what we're cutting out today. I thought it was just such a fun idea to take something so in your face and create something different with it. So it was really fun to create this. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a master watercolorist. So I was trying, but I'm not a master. So I think you get what it looks like. If I did it all over again, I wouldn't have used these watercolors. I would have used the Neocolor 2 crayons or the scribble sticks. I think I would have gotten better control and definition and could have put the green down and then put the colors over top of it. So, just thoughts. Use whatever medium you would be best at or you'd get the best results with. So just think that through before you go straight into this. But I do think that these came out really cute even still. Then for the pots, I'm just coloring the bottom because the top doesn't really matter. And I added shading to that left side. Then I'm going back through and adding some further detail once everything's wet. Once everything's dry. So I added some details to the flowers and to the greenery. Then I'm going to take those dies and die cut everything out. Next, I'm just sticking the pots under the plants. So here you can see the unicorn flipped upside down with its little legs in the air. I made some standing flowers, and its mane kind of some trailing flowers. So I worked with what I had and created that. I think if I did again, I would have just chopped off the horn. I feel like the horn kind of says, oh, what I really am is a horse, a unicorn. Look at me like that. While the dragon, even though I didn't change anything there, doesn't really look like a dragon. Just thoughts. So next I am trimming down the pot for what would be the griffin die cut and trying to fit that on. I do end up having to cut some of the flags off, but that's okay. And I'm just going to glue those all together. I do want to note I put these together on a card base, got it all ready, and hated it. it looks so ugly. You'll see it in a minute. So you'll miss a little bit. I'm not sure if I capture it, but I do glue the two on the sides just straight to the paper, and then the middle one I glue with some foam adhesive behind it. You'll see in the top left corner the very start of that. But here I am embossing this sentiment, and I'm embossing it with some pearl, Hero Arts pearl embossing powder, and then I'm stamping or painting over it with some of that black Spectrum Noir sparkle ink. So here we go. There's the background. You can just tell it's not great. It's just not. After putting so much work into those little potted plants, I really wanted them to look better, and the background just kind of detracted and did not help them look any better. So I took these little scissors, my fussy cut scissors, and am trimming it all out. So you don't have to, if you make something and it doesn't look great, that's okay. Just salvage what you can and move on. Start it again. So here I'm taking this embossed background stamp that I had done before. It was for a previous video. I'll link that at the end if you're interested, but I never actually put anything on there. So I decided to use that, and I just brushed with this enchanted gold gilding polish from Cosmic Shimmer, which I really enjoy. It gives just a subtle sheen to the background in a gold pearl color. I also really like their just regular pearl color as well. That's really awesome. But since this has some gold elements to it, I thought the gold would be perfect. Next, I'm taking that same brush I used earlier with the tumbled glass distress ink, and I'm adding a few darker areas of the distress ink in Mermaid Lagoon. I tried out a lot of different ways to add that piece in and could not get it where I liked it. The issue was I couldn't separate those pots because I just cut it from the background of that other card, and they're all glued together. They're not coming apart. So I decided to just stick them down to the card base. The one thing I didn't show you is I do add some glossy accents to the flowers. You'll be able to see that in the end pictures, but I just added some glossy accent over the flowers and called it good. So next we're working on the second card. And this one I'm taking that piece that I just finished coloring, and I'm going to die cut the unicorn out of that paper. Even though this just cuts out the surrounding image of that stamp that I no longer have, it still looks like a unicorn. So I felt like I could make a unicorn card, especially with that pretty light blue piece that I had just made for the other card, which didn't work. So I'm adding some foam tape to the back there, and I decided I'd put it on top of this white piece from the same video a while ago that I never actually painted. Now I have put tape around the edges so that the edges stay white, but I'm coloring the inside with some picked raspberry and worn lipstick distress ink. I'm having those come in from two different sides because I want it to have a two-toned effect. Next, I'm going to add some Spectrum Noir sparkle ink, and this is the same as their clear sparkle marker. I just added some flicks of it on, but I used a pipette and it kind of messed it up. I just wanted a little bit of sparkle, and instead I got a big mess. So now I'm adding those two same Distress ink colors on with a paintbrush in the same areas, but I am adding some water as I dry it with my heat gun so that I get some spotches. Now I'm going to take that same gilding polish in the emerald gold and color the back of that card as well. I'm going to take some gold mirror finish, satin mirror finish cardstock from Tonic and cut out these thank you words from Concord Night. And I'm just sticking, I did run it through my little Xyron sticker maker just so that they'd have adhesive on the back, and I'm sticking those straight down to the blue colored cardstock that I made. I thought this one turned out super cute, and it was a lot of fun to make, and it's so girly. I'm excited to give it to somebody who would really appreciate that. So the one thing I don't show you in this video is I do go back and draw in just a little bit of the unicorn. I add with some gold gel pen, I add the horn, and I add a little bit of detail around the muzzle, nose part of the horse, just so that you really can tell that it's a unicorn. My mom said she had a little bit of difficulties seeing that it was a unicorn, so I added those few details, but it's something you wouldn't have to have the stamp for. You could just look at the stamp on the internet like I did and add those details in if needed. Then I took some various little jewels and stuff that I had in my stash and added them across the card. And you'll see that in the left bottom corner I have it kind of big, and in the right top corner I have it going kind of in a triangle out, and it's supposed to look kind of like a unicorn horn, right? That was kind of what I was going for, subtly. Then I stacked the white piece, I put some foam, the white piece, then some foam, the blue piece, and called it good. It looked super cute. Next, we're moving on to the very last card and the very last way to use coordinating dies in an unconventional way. So I took the dies and die cut them out of some fun foam, because you can actually stamp fun foam. This would be a great way if you did have the dies and you wanted to color them really quickly. You could just die cut them out of foam and stamp the foam stamp down with the colors, then stamp over it with the real stamp and have really quick coloring. But today that's not what we're doing. We are creating a turnabout stamp. So Concord Night makes these awesome stamps called turnabout stamps, which I really enjoy, and I'm a big fan. But I also thought the idea was super fun and figured out how to do it myself because that's just kind of who I am. If you can't tell, I like figuring out how to do things. So I have a whole video about that, and I promise to share that at the end. So if you want to learn how to do it yourself, then you can go over there and check it out because it's really easy. But I've set everything up. I just temporarily adhered the stamps down, and now I am stamping them out. I decided to do kind of camo colors because what I wanted to do is make it look kind of like a hedge. And when I was doing it, I was expecting you to be able to kind of see more of the shapes, and it was going to be an enchanted garden, you know, so you could see the little dragon and the unicorn and the castle and stuff in the background, but by the end you can't really tell, but you and I can tell. So I think this is a great idea if you want to do a hedge. You can just make something like this. Even you won't even be able to tell. So it was a lot of fun. I didn't expect not to be able to tell what it was, but it worked out either way. Next, I'm spraying, since I use Distress Oxide ink, when you spray with water, it makes it oxidize a little bit. So that's what I'm doing here. Next, I decided to splatter some ink because if you know, on greenery, you have a lot of dark areas because there's so many leaves that there's a lot of little dark areas. So that's what I was trying to get with this splatter, and I'm using this Distress Splatter brush, which I find really helpful to actually make splatters. I don't see a lot of people use it, but I enjoy it. So I did dark green and gold on there. Next, I'm embossing this Concord 9th stamp that's the Painted Rose, and it's one of my all-time favorite stamp sets. So if you haven't ever embossed before, I just use my embossing buddy that's like an anti-static powder tool. I stamped with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Then I poured some clear embossing powder over it, dumped the excess back in the pot. If you do have a good clear embossing powder, your favorite, let me know in the comments because I'm almost out and need to buy a new one and would like to buy whichever one's best. So thanks. Then I heat set that, and now I have a raised image. So I sprayed with my favorite spritzer bottle, which comes from Hobby Lobby. It's the Master Touch. It gives you the perfect water spritz. Just trust me, it's worth the $10, which is saying something because I'm cheap. Like, I'm cheap. You know what I'm saying? Like, cheap. So it's worth the $10. But I'm taking some Brusho and painting down the red and the green. For the red, I spritzed the background and then I just pounced in that red and let it go. That was all I did for the red. A little bit of the red did get on the leaves, so I tried to sop that up. Then I painted the green in there, dried everything off, and die cut it out with the coordinating die. Next, I'm taking this stamp set from Penny Black, Words of Kindness, and it has this cute sentiment that I love. It says, once in a while, right in the middle of an ordinary life, love gives you a fairy tale or something like that. It's just so, gives us a fairy tale. It's just so cute, and it's perfect for any kind of romantic card, especially if you have to give like a wedding card or something. It's just too perfect. So I thought that this enchanted garden would go perfectly with a card like that. I don't actually need one, but you always kind of need one, right? You need to be ready when things happen. Get invited to something or somebody gets engaged. This would be perfect engagement card, like congratulations on getting engaged. So I put the background through my Xyron sticker maker and I'm just sticking it down. I decided to stick the whole thing down, but instead of cutting it, and then I cut with my scissors around and then mess it up. So I'm taking my trimmer and cutting it down. So it's just slightly less than a normal A2 card. Next, I decided it'd be super cute if I put some black, like, ironwork, kind of scrollness down in the background as well. So by this point, you can't tell that the hedge has cute little creatures in it, but that's okay. It still looks super awesome. I'm totally going to do this technique again when I need greenery like this. So I'm going to do around the edges of that little main focal point that I created, and to do that, I just drew it down on some fun foam and I'm just going to cut inside the edges of the drawing. So then I'll glue that down to the foam, then I'll glue the foam down to the background. Oh, I did go over the lines that you were going to see again, just so that they were a little bit darker and didn't get too, so I could kind of differentiate between the far background, which would be the green, and the little bit closer background, which would be the black. So it just gives it more dimension. Then I'm sticking this down. One thing I haven't done, but I'm thinking about doing, is adding a few little gems. I really wish I had some black gems. I think those would go perfectly here, but of course I don't, and I can't find them anywhere, so we'll see. But here are the finished photos. I added the little stuff with the unicorn, like I talked about earlier. I cut the excess off of this card and the glossy accent here. So those are my 3 ways to use coordinating dies in unconventional ways. So pop some of those out, because you can make a lot of cool stuff and you didn't even know it, right? Like it wasn't even what you were supposed to do with it, but it looks awesome. So definitely share those ideas, or if you create anything that's outside of the box, use this hashtag TLC Thursday TOOTB on Instagram so I can see it, because I would absolutely love to see what you guys are creating. Anyway, here are some videos you might be interested in. If you are interested in seeing next week's Thinking Outside the Box, definitely subscribe and hit the bell on my page if you haven't done that already. Thanks so much. Have a great day.